Good morning and welcome to Fat Cat Productions of News with a View. This is February 11th. I didn't put one out yesterday. It was just not worth it. There was too much fluidness going out in the news, so I didn't do it. So, February 11th, episode 31 already. Your host, John A. Costa, who is solely responsible for the content and information contained in this podcast. Hopefully, this will be a quick one, hopefully for you. We're going to go our rundown. We'll be talking about the Trump's orders to cease and stop working on the Federal Consumer Protection Bureau. So that will be interesting. That's a good topic. Second thing we'll be talking about is FEMA payments. That came up. That's all part of DOGE. Then we will speak about DOGE. Then Pam Bondi issues new Department of Justice rules. And we're going to talk about FBI leaks pertaining to ICE. So with that, we're going to start. Russell Vought, the director of Office Management and Budget, directed the CFPB to stop work on proposed rules and suspend the effective dates on any rules that were finalized but not yet enacted upon. Also to stop any investigation work and not begin any new investigation work. Now, this agency oversaw some, banking regulations from the, the consumer kind of watchdog side. There's no doubt that some of the things this agency does is, necessary to protect the consumer. But the laws need, and their rules and regulations need to be looked at. And one of the biggies in there, folks, that a lot of people don't get, that's FDIC. So, gotta be careful to make sure that basic protections are kept in place. I spoke about this before. I don't believe that you need a blanket protection of $250,000 for everyone, whereas you might need blanket protection for people that and companies and stuff that are using our banks as their payment system. That's all we could use. Might have $50 million in there. But so FDIC has paid out no matter what. I think that for the consumer and for big business, that protection come at a price. That, you're given $150,000 blanket, per account, per sub-account and everything. So the average American would be protected at no cost. But after $150,000, then you have to start paying a fee. And that goes directly to FDIC to shore them up. And that includes companies, too. So you want the protection you don't get Your homeowner's insurance isn't free. And I get it. For a business, it could be fractional, but if you're having an average, $100 million going through that we're protecting, maybe you have to pay $3,000 a day for that. I don't know. Let's look at it. I'm all for that. It's a way of funding FDIC, which protects us all, and also, means for big corporations to, you're all about paying your fair share, right? So let's look at that. But what this is also going to do, and what they have done, is this a program that also, paid off debts, school loans, and other forms of canceled debts. So this is a very, very powerful, very powerful branch or agency inside our government. And this was, if I remember right, this was an Obama administration agency after the 2007-2008 housing bubble mortgage second time around collapse, and this was to protect people from, predator lending, and they did good. They did good. But it also had, I thought, too much power. So Trump wants this looked at and realigned, which isn't out of step. It really isn't. It's been there for 15 years now, 2007. So 15 years, 16 years, 19 years. Excuse me, still have my little cough, but I'm getting better. But this was Senator Warren from Massachusetts. This was her little brainchild thing. And she is very big on watching the banks. But she's not that good at it. So I think this is going to get a lot of coverage in the news. Well, everything Trump is doing gets a lot of coverage in the news. But I got to ask the people this. Are you not, as a citizen, wanting accountability from our government? And that accountability, it is transparent. And I'm going to tell people, you can find every penny that is allotted by Congress. It's there. Nothing is hidden. But when I say it's not hidden, you might have to know how to go and find it. And you're not given a treasure map. It is difficult to find out the numbers. But they're there. They're not hidden. And people do have it, and they do show it. And they, that's when you get these, news stories that, USAID paid for Jordanian LGBTQ dances. And, but that was approved. People have no idea about that. So, going there with this administration, Trump's going to look at it because We've spent a lot of money, folks, and it's got to get paid back. And we got to start pulling some of this money back and going, we're not spending it on that. We have from Florida up through the Carolinas to the Pacific coast that actually need our help. And I don't care if they're liberals, if they're Republicans, if they're Democrats, if they're progressives. The United States, we protect everyone in all our citizens. I keep saying citizens. But that also covers documented immigrants that are not citizens yet, but are documented. They're here. We know about them. And as such, we put our arms around them and hold them like they're one of ours. Because probably down the road, they will be one of ours. All right. We're going to go on now to FEMA. Now, I have to keep this page out because it has my rundown list, and I don't put in a rundown list on every page, which would probably make sense. All right. Seems that even though Musk isn't looking at FEMA, or is he? Saw that approximately $59 million was sent last week to house illegals, and they are illegals, in luxury hotels in New York City. Yeah. I'm saying that these people have to be housed somewhere. I mean, but $59 million from FEMA. FEMA. Did they give $59 million yet to people in Florida or Carolina or California? I'm just asking. Did they help our citizens? So, I'll say this again. If New York wants to be a sanctuary city, New York City, that's on them. Why is my federal money being used for that crap? Why are we allowing that? Every taxpayer should be going, no. No, no, no. Because it is wrong. You have the federal government chasing these people, but yet you're now having a federal agency pay for those people. You see the problem there, folks? Do you get it? Do you understand it? So, FEMA, under Acting Director Cameron Hamilton, said those payments were suspended as of Sunday. And when we say suspended, meant up until Sunday it was paid for. Nothing you can do. Can't take that money back. What are you going to do? Tell those hotels no? You know, all the stuff that you gave them, now you got to give back. Hotels didn't do anything wrong. Did they? No. Now, Musk gave no evidence for his claim on this. And I didn't write who this came from, but I'm almost certain it was reported on MSM. Gave no evidence when he made these claims. Yet, FEMA stopped the payments, and that seems proof enough. Now, again, the reach of DOGE. Is there a problem with that? Now, he didn't go and say, you know, I'm ordering you to get that money back, because he does not have that authority yet to do that, to claw back. So, but he can certainly make it known. Now, I also have a problem with some of that too. Yes, he might be authorized to speak to the press or make these releases on X. But I don't want X to be a government platform either. Right? I mean, wouldn't you say that? Don't we have a press department with our government that, you know, can release all this information? And so I think he needs to be just reined in a little bit. And as a federal employee, he must follow the rules of such. That's all. I have no problem with the rules. None whatsoever. It makes for a nice time for all playing in the sandbox. So let's get that going. And I get it. We have an administration, and I've said it before, that will just shout things out. They won't raise their hands like in school. They won't go, ooh, 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 I know the answer. They just shout it out. And for some people, they don't like it. Now, we're seeing the Democrats all over the place, shouting, screaming, yelling, doing the same thing. What's that old saying? What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Though our country and our government is not a goose. So we need to get Elon on the page. We need to get the president on the page. It's hard. It's hard. That's a hard task. But I think the more you do correctly is the less the other side can point out. Now, they can complain about it. They could say, hey, we feel it's not right. And, you know, we worked hard for these programs, and this is going to do this, this, and that. That's fine. I have no problem with the other side pulling up facts. I have a problem when our side doesn't use facts. I have problems when they don't use facts. So, like I said, you swing the sword, just realize I'm going to come right back at you. So, facts matter. Following the rules that are set there. And if you don't like those rules, then you have the people in power that can effectively change those rules. And, you know, as long as it's not a law and just a rule, as long as that rule doesn't interfere with law. So, I mean, it comes down and then goes up, and it gets complicated. But that's why we have these people. And now this is the other side of the spectrum with DOGE. This is from The Independent. And they get their information correctly. But they report billionaire Elon Musk and his hand-picked team of young, inexperienced engineers wrestled control over the past several days of highly sensitive systems within our Consumer Financial Protection Agency. That's what I was talking about on page 1. The CFPB, gaining access to non-public bank examination and enforcement records. Yeah, those non-public, those are government. So Musk has been tasked with doing that. Yeah, there's not a problem with that. And there are people saying their concerns on how the world's richest man may use this confidential information. Well, for one, it's not confidential information. Non-public means it's government. And how it gets paid, and why it gets paid, and who it gets paid to, that's public information, folks. So, even if he got on a soapbox right now and started spewing off every name, guess what? It's not illegal. Okay, just so you know. So, Russell Vought, who I said is now the keeper of the purse. They said a Project 25 architect. Yeah, he was. He was. Yep. And it's a project that I agree with. Accountability. Can you really take a stand against government accountability? Let's just all get on that one level. Do you want a government that is accountable to its citizens, to its taxpayers? I would say probably 99% of people will say, no, I want a government that's accountable. Now, we might have a difference of how we make that accountability work. And Department of Digital Services, which is now DOGE, is that department. Now this is about efficiency and seeing what is actually being done. How do we know if there's anything wrong if we can't examine it? I could say something's wrong, and then you look at it and you go, there's nothing wrong with it. I could also say, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. You don't need to look. And you look at it and you go, what are you talking about? This is wrong. 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5. So the old adage is you don't know what you don't know. Though it seems already in a week, a lot of things are being pointed out. Again, being pointed out. So, just like the FEMA looking at how they were paying, they weren't allowed to do that. Did Musk find a problem? Yeah. Did he point it out? Yeah. Did FEMA say, yeah, that's a problem? Who would have caught that? There's systems in place that should not happen. Who would have caught that? Now let's look back 4 years. Let's look back 10 years. or 8 years. I'll go back into the Trump administration and look too. No problem. Because I don't know what I don't know. Let's find out. So, again, can there be anyone that says this is a problem? Now, we talk about DEI. Right? Gotta have it. Down later in this article, they fear that Musk's band of 19 to 25-year-olds, so 19 to 25-year-olds, is something that should be feared. Right? That they might use this information to blackmail people. So they're making a blanket statement because 19 to 25-year-olds are blackmailers. Right? You okay with that? You okay with that statement? Because no one over 25 has ever blackmailed anyone. No one under 19 has ever blackmailed anyone. Just 19 to 25-year-olds. They're blackmailers. So much for inclusivity, right? So much for diversity, right? So they're saying Department of Government official has already eviscerated. Now, I love when they use eviscerated. I don't know, that only started seeing that in the liberal media in about 2016. And for those people, that's when you take a human, you dissect a human being or an animal while it's alive and it knows what's going on. So I don't call it eviscerating or eviscerated. I don't call it that. Call it accountability. No one's being killed on a table. All right? You might have to be accountable for what you've done. But those words, those are dog whistles to rally and get the left all up in arms. And not so much the right, because according to them, we're the ones holding you down on the table doing it. So we're perfectly okay with it. All right. The second part was, and was my DOGE thing, that 19 to 25-year-olds, according to the Independent and their reporting, can't be working in the government or for the government or as a contractor. So, or can't be trusted because they're blackmailers. What a world, huh, folks? All right. Attorney General Bondi issues new Department of Justice policies on charging plea bargaining, and sentencing. Now, it's this. It's concerning to me that we had to go this route, because the idea was, you know, you get charged with a crime because the government had enough evidence to put the charge forward. Plea bargaining, which is a major tool in federal cases, and in a lot of state cases. I mean, very few cases go to trial because you plea bargain. And then also on the sentencing. Some sentencing, you know, they talk about fairness. And, you know, let the sentencing fit the crime. So, in it, she's stating that the new rules for prosecutors to follow two-step procedure when deciding whether to bring federal charges. First, they must determine whether federal charges are appropriate. Well, that kind of makes sense. I mean, yeah. And considering such things as probable cause, substantial federal interest, and alternatives to prosecution. So, let's say someone was violating a federal law, but might not know they were violating the law. Again, you know, ignorance of the law, and you got personal people and stuff, but sometimes you get bad advice. Sometimes you don't ask the right question to get the right answer. And so, is there an alternative than just dragging this person in there or company in there? Or can you go in there and go, you violated this statute. One, we want it remedied. And two, we could either charge you, take you to court, or we could just assess a fine and we could, you know, do that. Now, I worry about those things too, because, you know, someone might go, oh, I'll just, hey, screw it, when they catch us, I'll just pay a fine. But if they don't catch us, whoo-hoo. So I look at that. But again, that would be the person knowing they were violating a federal law and we're trying to skirt it, instead of just stumbling through it, not realizing what the ramifications were. You know, a Bernie Madoff, yeah, he goes away a long time. But someone who actually just didn't realize they had skirted, and then will make a remedy to it, and those people you might not want to charge. So I get that. And by looking at is it appropriate to charge, and guided by the principles pursuing the most seriously and readily provable offense in the absence of unusual circumstances. And of course, the policy states right in it, prohibit prosecutors from being influenced by a person's political activities or beliefs. Which is saying that you can't go after you because you're a Democrat. Can't go after you because you're a Republican. Can't go after you because you're a Marxist. You can't go after you because you're a communist. You can't go after their activities. So if I'm going to challenge my PTA, I can't have the FBI come in and arrest me for that. If all I'm doing is challenging or questioning, what's going on at my PTA, which was the case under Biden, where he allowed the FBI and the Department of Justice allowed the FBI to arrest parents going to PTA meetings and taking a stance against the PTA. So if you want to just talk about one instance of weaponizing our police force, because at the end of the day, FBI are the police. Your local police are local, state police is state, FBI is everywhere. So, our system has been weaponized. This is going to stop, as it should be. Plea bargaining. Now, plea bargaining should always take into the fact of the crime. And the seriousness of the crime. And it has to align with it. And it has to be with the charges that are initially brought forth. So, that's legalese talk, and I can't really get into the legalese talk on that. But basically, I rob a bank of $100,000. Boom. I get arrested, and they got the money back. I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't use a weapon. And it's my first offense. So, there's a good chance that under those circumstances, I might get probation. I might not go to federal. I'll be charged, and I will be a felon. But I might not have to go to jail. Now, let's take the January 6th people who went into an office and took a pen or a plaque. Or in the one instance, they an old lady they said was trying to carry out a desk. You ever try to carry a desk? I have a hard enough time moving my kitchen chairs around. And they wanted to give her, well, they did give her 4 years. 4 years. No probation. 4 years. You think that's right? You think that's equity? You think that that's fairness? Two lawyers in New York tried to firebomb the police. Yeah. During social justice. You think they got 4 years? So, at least on the federal thing, she goes, we're going to bring fairness and common sense back into the picture here. and sentencing, prosecutors are required to provide a complete and accurate information to the court, including all relevant facts and the defendant's criminal history. And a sentencing recommendation should be based on an individualized assessment of the offense and the defendant's background. In most cases, sentences within the U.S. sentencing guideline range will be deemed appropriate. So, understand that on the books for certain crimes, it's no less than 1 year, no more than 5 years per count. And in the plea bargaining, you might be able to get 30 counts removed and just the one count of the most serious one. So instead of serving 150 years, you might just serve 5. Now, I would say in most white-collar crimes, there's always plea bargaining. Except in, where the victims were so adversely affected that, like a Bernie Madoff and some others, where you can't, you just got to put this person away. There's just no way you could plea bargain it down because you can't make 1,000 cases go away. So the idea of plea bargaining is a very important tool in our courts. And it does get used and it does get abused. A prosecutor who prosecutes a case is given a lot of wiggle room on that. But in the end, he has to justify it to his boss. Like in a court, you've all watched Law and Order, where the ADA goes to the DA and go, listen, I want to cut this guy a deal. And they go, what, are you going to cut this guy a deal? Well, if I go down this road, it might jeopardize the other charges. He's willing to cop to these charges. And, we'll put him away for 10 years and justice is served. And they cut a deal. Or, the lawyer goes in and goes, hey, my guy is willing to spill the beans on the people that you really want. You don't want him. You don't really want him. He's a little fish in a big pond. I can get you that big fish. I can get you the whale. And not a sardine. But for that, he's got to be given immunity over here. And, and whatever else comes with that. And sometimes they'll do it to catch the bigger fish. And there's all stipulations in there that your information has to be correct to the point that we secure conviction. That's the important part. Okay. So, Attorney General wants this to be common sense once again. And it kind of, who can deny that? Who wants a government where, like I said, the scales of justice are there, but their thumbs on the scale? No one wants that. Nor do we want a government or a legal system where it's, you did this, off with your head. You did that, off with your head. We don't want that either. Each case has its own unique circumstances to it. And the prosecutors are allowed to weigh that to a point. To a point. And I'll use the case against Hunter Biden, where people go, "Oh, he got a great deal." He got no better deal than 50,000 people behind him. Okay? And we know darn well why his plea bargain was yanked. We knew why. And this is why Trump wouldn't plea. He fought it. Because he knew damn well that any plea bargain that he would have worked out, the other side would have just yanked it and go, "He's already pleaded guilty, Your Honor." Now, if he wants to change it right now because the game has changed, sure. We'll let this guilty guy go to trial. And that's why Trump fought it. And Trump was right. And what they did to Hunter Biden was wrong. That was injustice. That was not justice. The justice was working out a plea deal, and it wasn't a bad plea deal. No different than they did other plea deals. But he didn't get justice. He got retribution. He was the other team was able then to get their pound of flesh after they agreed to no pound of flesh. So I had major problems with that. I don't like that. Because if they'll do it to him, can you imagine what they'll do to us? Yeah. I fear that. Now, the last topic, this should go on for about another 10 minutes, is the FBI leaks of ICE raids. Since they all fall under Homeland Security and everyone reports. The New York Times had reported they had documents from alleged FBI sources of pending ICE raids across the country. And the New York Times and others are releasing this information ahead of any raids. Now, this is... that's me saying that. But this is the information that was given. And the information, and people did show up, and people were told. Whether it was the New York Times giving that information out or other ones, the information was, they were looking at FBI documents. Now, I have a huge problem where the media can use information like this, and that's should not be protected. That's not whistleblowing. That is not what the argument here is, where the FBI is said in closed meetings that we're going after anyone, citizens too. Now, if that was the case, that's a whistleblower, because they're violating, citizens' rights, or they're breaking the law. The ICE agency is not breaking the law. They're doing their job. And what's happening is that information that is clandestinely removed by people that should not do it, should not be releasing that information. It's illegal. And they're using stolen material. And before that, before they use that information, they should be forewarned that if you put this information up there, this is not whistleblowing. This is interference and theft, and maybe even more. And you're putting it out there, knowing that the people that gave this to you were not authorized to give you this information. That's not whistleblowing. And these people should be, and I mean should be. That is where plea bargaining and sentencing and charging and all that stuff, that's a serious thing, because what you do is you undermine the FBI. And you undermine us all. And you could put the FBI's lives in danger, put the public at large in danger. The FBI goes in there thinking they're just arresting illegal immigrants or even gang members, and they're waiting with guns going. And, now a gunfight erupts, and people a block away get hit with bullets. You think that's justice? You think that's what whistleblowing is about? I don't. I call it aiding and abetting. And I would get these people, and I would charge them. Because you are aiding and abetting. The editors, the owners of these companies that release this information, and the editors, not the guy copy at the copy press or the guy at the newsstand who's selling the paper. The editors who given us the story and they go, we can't print that. I'm not going to jail. I'm not shutting this agency down, or this building down, and having all these people lose their jobs. Because that's not whistleblowing. If you said that they were going to go in there and they had instructions of take no prisoners, then that's whistleblowing. So I have a major, major problem with that. And so does Department of Homeland Security, who in essence stated that those persons, the FBI, in the FBI, or wherever the information is leaked from, will be prosecuted to the full extent of our laws. And Homeland Security says the FBI has some dishonest people working for it. And they will be taken care of. They will be caught. And we find out who they work for and who are they acting for. Are they acting on their own? I would doubt it. I would highly, highly doubt it. And there is a group inside many of these government agencies that are embedded. And they've been embedded since Obama's time and are deep. The seeds now has roots, and the roots now have gone into the ground so tight that you might not be able to pull them out. So what do? How do you get rid of weeds if you pull them? You can't pull them out. I'll tell you how. We use our legal system as it's meant to be used. And we prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. If it says 1 to 5 years, you get 5. Because you threw your duty and trust away. So we will go to the full extent of the law. We're not going to say 15 years because the law doesn't say that. The law says 5 years. But if we see that you did it 6 times, we're going to have it run concurrently. You're going to do 30 years. Now, the next Democratic president, you might hope, will give you a pardon, commute your sentence, whatever. But for the next years after you're convicted, and I'm not, you got to be convicted. They got to show proof, and it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm all for that. Even though they broke our rights, we don't break your rights. That's not how it's done. All right. This is going to be a quick one today. Hopefully under an hour. I'm sure it's been under an hour. I don't know. I've been told to put a little clock up and so I could see it. And then I don't get to hear myself talk. All right. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. In the next week, we will be pushing this show out a little bit harder and a lot more people. I have people on Facebook watching now, and I have people on YouTube. Not many, but God starts somewhere. Every journey starts with a first step. So, God bless. Say a prayer.